Greetings and welcome. How are we all feeling at the moment? Today's topic is on mental clutter, and a lot of us have a lot of it, and it takes up so much space in your mind. And it's something that we accumulate and we try to replicate more into our lives without even realizing how toxic mental clutter is. We don't realize all the old junk that we're collecting over the years, all the false beliefs, all the false truths, all the false ideas, and all of the opinions that don't matter that we accept, all these toxic relationships that we entertain. And mental clutter manifests from accumulating old toxicity, old toxic relationships, toxic traits, toxic habits, destructive mindsets, and toxic mentalities and toxic ways of internalizing your world. It means that we don't let go. We either hold grudges or we repress, and that's going to add to your mental clutter. And mental clutter can be difficult to get rid of when you are holding on to something that you really don't want to let go of, but you know it's bad for you. And mental clutter is toxicity, accumulated, destructive toxicity that doesn't serve you in any way. And when we accumulate all of this mental clutter, it leaves us less room to grow and develop, because we need room to grow. We can't grow in the small space. How are we supposed to expand? How are we supposed to extend? And we cannot develop, we cannot create a different or an updated version of ourselves if we are confined to the small space. You need room to grow. You need room for those roots to grow deep. You can't try and facilitate growth and personal development when there's no space in your mind, because it completely takes over your mindset, which will affect your growth and your development. And we become extremely overwhelmed when we have mental clutter, because a lot of the time we can't tell what's important and what's not, because there's just so much of everything going on in our minds, and we struggle to organize thoughts, organize our minds, organize how we think, how we feel. And it can be very challenging, and it can be very, very difficult as well. And that overwhelm, when we are overwhelmed, then we accumulate more toxicity, and we find it a little bit more difficult to declutter the psyche, because it's about, where do I start? You're given this huge room filled with clutter. Where do you start? At one place. And that's why it's important that you declutter your psyche, so that you do have room for yourself to think and have your sanity and your stability. Mental clutter leads to mental and emotional distress. You become so overworked, so overwhelmed that you cannot manage your mindset, your perspectives. Everything just seems so negative, and you're so overwhelmed that you cannot see the good side of things, and you become so emotionally distressed that you cannot emotionally regulate. You struggle to regulate your emotions and also their intensities. Things become extremely intense, and that can make it very difficult to start decluttering the psyche. But mental clutter causes a whole host of issues with mental distress distress, that there's no space in your mind for you to move, for you to work, for you to think. And thoughts and emotion go hand in hand. So your emotional distress will be a result of your mental clutter, absolutely. And then your thoughts become cyclical. We don't always realize the cycles of our thoughts, how reoccurring some of them are, how habitual some of them are, and that we don't always notice what we are allowing into our minds. We don't always notice what we are engaging in. And those cyclical thoughts can build up and build up and build up and create more junk, more toxicity, take up more space, because you're not living. You are in a completely different world with your thoughts and how you're thinking. And removing yourself from your reality will cause mental distress, and that will add to your mental clutter. And you also will most likely start to suffer from other mental health conditions as a result of mental clutter. As a result of mental clutter, you will start experiencing anxiety, which is an intense fear, a panic, a fear of future outcomes, and you just become afraid of your mind. You have so much anxiety within yourself that you can't even begin to start clearing things out and moving things in your mind and creating new spaces, because you're held back by this intense fear of it. And mental clutter can also lead to depression, because you are stuck with the difficulties of the past, your past experiences, the trauma you faced, and the triggers that you face now. And it also causes a lot of emotional overwhelm. Your emotions may start to feel very overwhelming because there's so much going on in your mind that you don't know how to stabilize your emotions. So they also become very erratic, and that makes it very difficult to regulate your thoughts in your mind and to be able to actually clear out some space, because you're so overwhelmed, you don't know where to start. It's this huge thing, and you just become intensely emotional. And your emotions can also become destructive as a result of mental clutter, because your thoughts become destructive, your thought patterns become destructive, so your emotional reactions also become destructive. And due to mental clutter, the funny thing is, it is caused by overthinking, but having a lot of mental clutter causes even more overthinking, because there's so much going on in your mind that you have to analyze every single small thing, every single detail, and you need to think about it and think about it and create these scenarios so that you are prepared for the future. But you cannot prepare for something that hasn't happened yet. And it's very difficult to stop overthinking when you have so much clutter in your mind, because there's just these things going on and on and on and on constantly, and it's constantly taking your attention, and then you're engaging in this thought and then that thought and then that thought, and then you just start thinking and thinking and thinking until you put yourself into this state where you are doing nothing but getting lost in your own mind, and that's where you lose your sanity. It's important to do self-introspection, to do some work within yourself, to be able to look within yourself, and to be able to identify what is taking up space, because once you identify what is taking up space, you can remove it, you can let it go, you can work through it, and you can start decluttering a little bit. And the best thing you can do for mental clutter is to focus on your healing. Focus on healing what is causing all of this clutter in your mind and taking up all the space, and letting go. And And you need to do this in the present. You need to heal in the present. You need to let go in the present in order for you to effectively declutter the psyche and to be able to plan for the future. Remember, mental clutter is an accumulation of old toxic junk that we collect over the years. As it's important to declutter your environment, the same is true for your mind. So remember, you are unique and valuable. Take care of that stunning person. Stay strong wherever you're from.